Welcome to the ultimate destination for admirers of Sheikh Hamdan. A place where admiration transforms into understanding, and fascination evolves into inspiration. This is not just a channel, it's a sanctuary for hearts drawn to the captivating aura of Dubai's crown prince. Here, we peel back the public persona to reveal the deeply human, intensely poetic soul of the man behind the royal title. Sheikh Hamdan is more than a leader. He is an artist, a dreamer, a man navigating the delicate balance between legacy and longing, tradition and truth. In today's feature, we open the gates to a realm few have seen, a heartfelt revelation wrapped in poetic grace. A piece of Sheikh Hamdan's soul etched into words, delicate yet powerful, intimate yet universal. It's not just a poem, it's a bridge between royalty and reality. It's a whisper from his heart to ours, offering a rare glimpse into the passions, fears, and hopes that define his journey. Sheikh Hamdan's poetry is not written in ink alone, but in emotion, memory, and vision. It pulses with the rhythm of a life lived under the spotlight, yet yearning for quiet. With each line, he invites us into his world, not the polished, public-facing one, but the sacred, inner sanctum where his truest self resides. And today, his words are more than verses, they are a declaration. A poetic unveiling of a decision that defied expectations, transformed narratives, and redefined love itself. The story begins not with a fanfare, but with silence. A simple moment. A private reading. A verse whispered in the quiet. The words were soft, yet carried the weight of mountains. And among those words came a line that stirred hearts and stunned minds. I'm marrying her. A single phrase that would echo far beyond the confines of the palace. But it wasn't the announcement of marriage that left the world breathless, it was who he chose to marry that turned whispers into waves. This wasn't just a romantic revelation, it was a revolutionary choice. For years, the world speculated endlessly about the identity of the woman who would stand beside the crown prince. Imaginations painted her as a glittering figure draped in designer silks, poised on red carpets, a flawless embodiment of royal perfection. But Sheikh Hamdan's truth was far more beautiful, and far more real. He chose her. She wasn't a public icon or a social media sensation. She didn't sparkle under the camera flash, nor did she crave applause. Instead, she carried herself with a quiet dignity, a calm grace that seemed untouched by the chaos of the world. Her beauty was the kind that doesn't shout, it whispers. And Sheikh Hamdan, with his poetic heart, heard it louder than anything else. He didn't choose her because she fit a mold. He chose her because she broke it, with kindness, with humility, and with truth. In a world that races for attention, she walked slowly. In a kingdom built on image, she stood firm in authenticity. And in his heart, she was the echo of every poem he had ever written. Their love story wasn't built on spectacle. It grew in silence. In glances exchanged across crowded rooms. In hands brushed by accident. In the comfort of shared silences and the intimacy of unspoken understanding. It was a connection born not in the public eye, but in the hidden places of the soul. Sheikh Hamdan's decision was more than romantic, it was radical. He stood against the tide of tradition and expectation. He could have chosen the predictable path, the polished fairy tale. Instead, he followed the quiet pulse of truth beating in his chest. He chose a woman who saw him, not the prince, not the poet, but the person. And in doing so, he gave us all a lesson in what love can truly be. This wasn't about grand declarations or choreographed proposals. It was about sitting together in the quiet after a long day. About recognizing pain in a glance, and answering it with presence. About knowing that sometimes, the greatest expression of love is just being there, not to fix, not to impress, but simply to share the moment. Sheikh Hamdan's bride may not have been born into royalty, but she carried herself like a queen, quietly, powerfully, effortlessly. She didn't need a crown to shine. She was the kind of woman who wore love like an armor, and compassion like a jewel. Her greatest beauty was that she never tried to be anyone else. She was simply, and completely, herself. To the outside world, their pairing might have seemed unexpected. But to him, it was destiny. When others looked for glamour, he looked for grace. When they sought elegance in appearance, he found it in silence. When the world expected performance, he offered presence. Their love blossomed in moments the cameras missed. In the early morning stillness before the day began. In whispered laughter over shared memories. In long walks where words were few but hearts spoke loud. In those private, unpolished seconds where real life lives. This woman, this quiet force of nature, became his safe harbor. Amidst the pressure of leadership, the loneliness of command, and the constant gaze of the world, she was his calm. His quiet. His home. She didn't need to fill the space with conversation. Her silence spoke volumes. In it, he heard understanding. In her gaze, he found acceptance. And in her love, he rediscovered the freedom to be fully, fallibly, human. When the poem went public, the world was divided. Some celebrated. Some questioned. Others whispered behind screens and closed doors. But none of that mattered to him. Because in choosing her, he had already chosen truth. For Sheikh Hamdan, love wasn't about convincing the world, it was about being understood by one. And in her, he found that mirror. A soul who reflected not the prince, but the man. Who held space for his dreams, his doubts, his weariness, and his wonder. It was in her company that Sheikh Hamdan remembered how to breathe. How to laugh without caution. How to cry without shame. With her, there was no performance. There was only presence. There was only peace. And as they step into the future together, not as perfect icons, but as imperfect humans, Sheikh Hamdan reminds us all of the quiet revolution that love can be. Because in the end, the greatest legacy he will leave may not be in policies or palaces. It may be in the simple, powerful message his choice sends, that real love is quiet. That truth is enough. And that to be truly seen, and loved anyway, is the greatest gift of all. So, to those who followed the headlines, look closer. Beyond the glitter and the gossip, there is a story worth hearing. A story of courage, conviction, and connection. A story where poetry met presence, and royalty met reality. And as Sheikh Hamdan walks into this new chapter of life, hand in hand with the woman who loved him for who he is, not who he's expected to be, we are reminded of a truth we too often forget. That the strongest kind of love is the kind that doesn't need to be seen to be felt. Doesn't need to be shouted to be heard. And doesn't need to be perfect to be true. Stay with us for more untold stories, poetic reflections, and deep dives into the life and heart of Dubai's Crown Prince. Because here, we celebrate the man behind the crown, and the woman who saw